Racing enduro compared to downhill, there's some similarities, but the biggest thing for me is learning the different formats. You know, I'd never done any transition stage racing. I didn't really know what the French racing would be like with one practice run, then one race run, or one practice run, two race runs. So I just had an idea of what I thought enduro would be, and to actually do the events, I've learned a lot this year. Not just an event where you go up and do one run and then you're back in the comfort of your pits. It's being able to deal with being away for most of the day and being really, you know, rider on the mountain for can be the whole day. So you have to be prepared for all conditions, and it's a little bit more rugged than downhill in the sense that, you know, you have to deal with those conditions, and you know, you have to push your bike up these climbs and to get to the start of races. And you know, even the races themselves have, you know, some grunty climbs in there. So, you know, there's a lot of aspects to enduro. It's not just, you know, rolling down the hill. Enduro is close to what the average rider does, but in saying that, some of the stage we're racing is, you know, even more closer to downhill technicality. You know, the roots, the rocks, and you know, that's full on for, you know, up to sort of 20-minute stages. Although it's something I would definitely go out and ride with my mates, the level that you race at is probably more similar to downhill. The calm before the storm. Yeah, so Val di Sole, I was excited to go there because it's one of the only venues that no one has raced before. Totally fresh courses, like they were just marking the courses, you know, the days before the event, and you could tell no one had ridden them. So it's put everyone on the same playing field. You know, no one could practice until the race day. We could walk the course the day before, but to walk, you know, 3 stages it's a big day. So, you know, you would walk some parts. Coming into the race, I was in a position of 19th. So that means that, you know, I'm starting around some guys that I could potentially catch in my runs. And that was a problem for the first 2 stages. I really feel like those ones, you know, finishing 3rd in the first stage and then in the second run finishing 2nd with those guys that I was catching, potentially I could have gone fast enough to win those stages. It's maybe a little annoying. I was pretty happy to know that my speed was there on these fresh courses. Obviously my damper for the weekend was the flat tyre on stage 2. If I could go back in time and erase this, it would have been a much better weekend. But the next day, I think I backed up that it wasn't just a one-day thing. I managed to go 2nd again, and then even the final stage on the really long physical stage, which I thought with my limited training this year, the other guys would be a lot faster. I was actually surprised to still come down and be in 4th. So I think I had a really consistent weekend, and I was actually really happy with knowing that with the right amount of work in the off-season and then a good start to the season, you know, I can potentially do pretty good at these races. So yeah, that was confidence building for sure. Yeah, come from Val di Sole, and so the last stop before I go home is helping these guys at World Champs, and this is the first chance to give them a bit of help, and that's the course walk. So yeah, checking it out, looking at lines, and just talking about little bits and pieces we can look at and work on through until the race, and the weather conditions and how that will affect it, and how that will help the guys. So found a few things and a few things to work on. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more jumps on the pedalling, so I think that that's going to be a different challenge for the guys, because in the past you've been able to run a dropper post and throw it up and get a little bit of a spin, where now the straight, especially beside us here, that's got a lot more jumps on, so there's not that opportunity to get a rest for a second. So not all about pedaling, I would say more about carrying speed. Things I've learnt in the past from different people is those flatter sections are where the time is. Getting through the technical sections cleanly is obviously important, but the time is really making it on those flatter sections where you can pump and stay away from the bumps and just rolling speed, so that's super important.
The track hasn't changed pretty much at all apart from the last section, but the conditions are a lot different. It's so dry and hard packed. It's like concrete with concrete dust on top, so yeah, it's really hard to find good traction. It's more about pedalling than any other track, but you have to be able to obviously ride the technical as fast as anyone else. But yeah, it's a lot about the pedalling.
The first day of practice for Worlds was super dusty. It was really powdery out there. It was like riding on the moon. It was pretty crazy. It stayed like that until we got some rain on Friday, and then the course was in mint condition for the weekend. I think it's a proper downhill course. I think it fits in well to the overall series. It might be a little bit one-sided for world champs.
No, I can't race 100%. It's just kind of sitting in the back of my head that I've got a shoulder injury. I try to do my best to put it aside and just, focus on racing. But, I think I can do that. But it's just I know it's not 100%, and I can't really, push on it. But had it strapped this morning, just for a bit more support as I've been doing most races. It felt pretty good. The track here is not as hard and rough as the other ones, so I'm pretty lucky for that. But I do notice it on a couple of sections where I kind of have to use my shoulder, but it's nothing major. Yeah, it's really dusty. It's hard. It's quite hard to ride. It's a bit of a struggle, but it's at the same time it's fun.
Yeah, practice is good. It was real slippy dirt here in South Africa. It was pretty unpredictable. We were swapping and changing quite a lot of parts and discussing a lot of lanes with Justin, and it was a pretty tricky start, to be honest. We're quite a simple track, so I felt like I was getting into it, which was good. I was looking forward to the race. But I was doing a practice full run, and I was feeling pretty good and misjudged one of the turns, and before I knew it, I clipped a tree and was on my head. It didn't feel great, rolled down a bit, but then I realised it was something a bit more serious, and when I got checked out and had a broken collarbone, so not great.
Monk was showing us some of the usual faces that he had to make during his last job.
Hello? Nah.
It was Ben! Is that Greg?
Is Ben getting interviewed?
No.
We've taken the suspension off the front, made it rigid, and put more suspension on the back. And for a course like this with the jumps, it actually works really well. Like, you get that compression in the back and it total bucks you every jump. And with the 24-inch wheels, they're just rolling, really slow, which makes you have to work really hard, and luckily I'm trained really hard. So it's just feeling great, Just so happy to be here.
No, I never tried rigid front suspension. because it's not suspension.
So we've made the grips out of sandpaper now. Yeah, and we go bare hands, so it really hurts, but you know your hands aren't going to come off.
I never said that.
Crash at the collarbone.
We pedal backwards and we have one crank half the length of the other, because I was born with a slightly shorter right leg than my left. So we've switched that around, done a lot of testing in the wind tunnel, and we found if I pedal backwards with different length cranks, I actually go a lot faster.
My goals for the last 2 races, which I've worked out mathematically in my mind, what I want to get, according to what a result I got last year, how I felt this weekend, how the bike's working.
Who is that? Man, you're the least kind of Gary here.
Yeah, olive oil in the front and balsamic vinegar in the rear, because everybody knows that they're a great combination together. So yeah, it means that my brake by halfway down is just about boiling and won't work anymore.
Fucking stupid questions.